Scientists, policymakers and practitioners all agree that increasing tree cover in England is an important part of a strategy to help mitigate the impacts of climate change. Beyond that, there's also benefits around biodiversity, water quality and flood mitigation, and also the associated economic benefits of food and timber production. Agricultural land has an important part to play in realising these benefits, but change can be difficult. So what can we learn from farmers who have already increased tree cover on their land?
So my name's Regenerative. We are in Keswick Park and I am third generation farmer. We've owned this bit of land since about the early 80s. We have about 90 head of cows cows plus cattle. Being third generation, farming for us is quite important. So my granddad was gifted some land or was being given the opportunity to buy land very cheaply. But as a family, we're something like 6th or 7th generation in the village. So there is a massive sense of place for us. So we're quite lucky as a farm. We've got about 5% of our land is already in trees. And then we own this sort of ancient parkland. And so what we've also been doing is adding some successional planting to it. So we've got about 12 or so different varieties of trees have gone in the last couple of years. So we're sort of supporting the trees that are here and then adding to them where we can. Massive amounts of oaks here, so about 80% of the trees, older trees are oaks, so it's trying to give a bit more diversity to it. We've been doing some hedge planting and some hedge coppicing as well.
Of course, farmers are maybe thinking about financial return and on investment when they're thinking about planting trees on their farms. But beyond that, there are other factors at play. And these are things which could be related to the things they value, such as things that are important to them for cultural, social or moral reasons. Values are shaped by many things, including the experiences we have, the places we live and the practices we undertake. So these values have been well documented through research and include things that relate to sense of belonging, connection to place and doing things the right way. Values are an important part of who we are as human beings, and so tuning into them we can learn a lot about the true motivations farmers have for growing trees on their land.
So I'm Chris Jones and we're sitting here at Woodland Valley Farm in mid-Cornwall near the village of Laddock. The farm has been in the family now since 1960 and I took it over when Dad died in 1990. We started out when Dad died with really quite a small herd of animals here, only 13 altogether, and we gradually grew that over the next few years up to 90 suckler cows and their calves and what have you.
We were very conscious that everything was we hadn't added to anything, so the decision in the last few years was to start adding more things in really. In 99 we planted a wood, so that's 25 years of age now, and so that's now going through its maturing phase and now needs to be thinned out. So that's a shift that's happened in the last 20 or 30 years. Obviously a lot of the established trees have just grown taller, and our hedgerow management has shifted slightly, so we've got slightly taller hedges in places. We do quite a lot of in-hedge trees as well, so we are putting trees in, and certainly because of the parkland we're in, we're doing individual trees, but we're also doing them as belts just because it fits with that's already here.
So we were interested in understanding the journeys that farmers went on to embracing growing trees on their land and the roles values have played in these journeys. To do this, we engaged with 8 farmers and farming families over a series of interviews with each.
We knew that we would never be able to make a living from here 30 years ago, a living that would provide all my family need just in farming. And I began to look at the farm in a very different way, and I see it as it's an area of land with sky above it and all the stuff that comes through the weather-wise and so on. But not only does weather cross it, flows of value cross it or run through it or underneath the ground or whatever. There's all sorts of flows of value there. Some of those, when you start to think about it, you can turn into cash. Some of them you can't, but may benefit you in other ways.
I suppose it's part of our core farming values, so we're really interested in having more biodiversity on the farm. Our farm's already quite good for biodiversity, but we want to add more to it. And so an important part of that is adding trees and hedges in where possible. These fields are not forest, they are woodland pasture, so we also have to make sure they look as they are, which is with a smattering of trees around rather than necessarily densely planted.
You know, in this country, let's say up until the Second World War, we farmed using ecology. That was the main, it was applied ecology. And since then it's become applied chemistry. And we've done things with soil that we've never done before since then. And we have lost a great deal of topsoil. We've denuded it of minerals. We've denuded it of organic matter. And what we have left is something that a friend of mine calls a medium, where you can put a plant or a seed and then give that thing all the things it needs to grow from a sack. And this is dangerous, because those things that are in a sack vary in price year to year, with things completely beyond our control, for example. But also one day those things are going to run out. And in my view, I'm a curious kind of bloke, and I want to see what we can do without that. How far can we go without having to get something out of a sack?
As a family, we're all obsessed with trees. I always find it interesting when people talk a lot about wood pasture or getting animals under trees. It's like we've always had experience of farming with trees in fields or nearby or hedges. So I suppose it's my background's always, they haven't been ever very far away. The reason why we wanted successional planting is we recognised that we hadn't planted anything in the last probably 50, 60 years. So it's part of the responsibility, I suppose, of owning something like this.
I did forestry as a degree, and part of that was looking at agroforestry, and I knew that it was potentially possible to grow trees and then farm around those trees, either with arable farming or with livestock, and not lose any agricultural benefit, and in fact arguably to gain agricultural benefit. We got involved with the starting up of something called the Pasture-Fed Livestock Association, which is a real agroecology kind of business, because that not only grows cattle in a very nice natural kind of way, immensely good for welfare, it also means that we are acting in a very regenerative way, because we're all building up reserves of soil organic matter through this, and doing lots for biodiversity and so on as well. So we were doing that happily for several years. It's now into the I guess 2015 or so, and we began to think about planting trees in our fields as well, because we felt we wanted to up the ante and be more effective at collecting carbon.
So an individual's values may not necessarily change, but their understanding of those values and their ability to act on them may do.
The core in all of it is that we stand on a profitable farm. So we can plant more hedges and we can do more because the business is functioning. And that, for a lot of farming businesses, the business isn't functioning, so therefore they don't have the time, headspace or finance to then do other things.
In many cases, just a single event or experience can lead to farmers rethinking their approach to farming.
We rented out half the farm to a daffodil grower, and they took the farm over for 3 years. And they basically wrecked the farm and destroy soil structure, destroy the life in the soil, just a general reduction in the value of the land. And I don't mean the value in terms of money, I mean in terms of everything. A few years later, this was 2007-8, we had a carbon audit carried out, and it was very disturbing to us because it showed that we were emitting a lot of carbon. And already at that stage I thought at some stage we're going to have to start to, in a very, very purposeful way, start to use our land to capture and store carbon.
In terms of trees, I can't remember the number of species that can live on trees. I don't necessarily know those facts, but what I like from farming stock under them is shelter, shade, particularly cattle. They like rubbing on them, so they do quite a lot of interaction with those trees. So on hot days, most of the stock would be finding shade, so either by hedges or under trees. We've also got cattle that eat acorns and various things, so their diet is also being shifted in terms of what they're foraging from hedges or from the trees themselves. I work off the farm as well with farmers, and you realise that actually how we've been farming probably for the last 56 years is having an impact, not only from an environmental perspective but also from a human health perspective. So then I've got the privilege to be able to do something with the land that is part of my family legacy, to sound dramatic. So we're just baby steps into regenerative farming really, so trying to reduce inputs where possible. We're doing more grass within the rotation, so trying to build more soil health.
Because the trees, when they get bigger, they will provide leaf litter, which will help fertilise the soil. They'll provide food for the animals who like to browse. Our cattle are essentially an animal of the woodland edge, so it's really good for them because you're just creating lots of woodland edge in a field. It would help us to move minerals from down in the soil back up to the surface where the cattle could get at it in the form of browsing.
I think it's not an ego thing for me, it's about we have this privilege, what can we do with it? For how many generations the point of farming is to make it better than when you took it on. And I don't think we can say we're doing that before we started to make some shifts here. That land quality has not been enhanced in the last couple of decades, so actually this is the time to make a shift really.
Paying attention to values makes us realise that decisions to increase tree cover on farmland are about more than just economics, although of course this is an important consideration. There are decisions that are influenced by farmers' histories and ways of life, their care for animal, crop or soil health, and their ideas of how they want to leave the farm in the future.
You go to other places that are a lot more bleak and have no tree cover. We've started with a higher number than the average for Lincolnshire already, so it isn't a big step to add a few more in.
I don't think there's many farmers who go about life thinking consciously they want to make anything worse. I think there is no doubt a lot of disconnect between modern industrial farming and the not doing any harm point. And for me, I want to leave this place a little bit better than it was when I took it on, in all sorts of terms, in farming terms, in social terms, and in environmental terms.
So these farmers' stories, along with the 6 other we have available in our publications, help illuminate the routes that farmers have taken to embracing growing trees on their land.
Just look what's available and look how that might fit into your land, and maybe do something in a way which is good for us, good for nature, good for everybody, good for society as well.